There's a question that many men have quietly carried with them for years. One they've thought about late at night, maybe even typed into a search bar, but almost never say out loud. If I masturbate regularly, is it hurting my prostate? Maybe you've heard whispers from friends, caught a headline online, or seen a video with conflicting advice. And like many, you probably brushed it off thinking, well, I feel fine, so why worry? Until one night, you wake up again. Second time, maybe third. That frustrating urge to pee, but nothing flows quite right. Your stream feels weak. You're left wondering if your bladder ever truly empties. And that's when the question comes back, this time louder. Is something going on down there that I've ignored for too long? The truth is, for most of us, the prostate is like a silent partner. We don't notice it until it starts demanding attention. And once we hit our 40s or 50s, that moment often comes sooner than we expect. Today, I want to sit down and talk to you not as a doctor preaching from a podium, but as one man to another, about something that affects millions of men but rarely gets an honest, open conversation, about the real connection between daily masturbation and your prostate. In this video, we're going to uncover 5 critical things that happen to your prostate when you masturbate regularly. We'll dive into the science, the myths, and the realities without the fluff or shame. You'll learn what researchers have discovered, what most men get wrong, and most importantly, how you can protect your prostate, feel more in control, and stay confident as you age. And by the end, I hope you'll walk away with more than just knowledge. You'll walk away with a sense of clarity and maybe even relief that no one ever gave you before. Let's begin. Part 1. The natural cleanse. How regular ejaculation helps your prostate stay healthy. Let's start with something most men have never really thought about. What happens inside the prostate when you ejaculate? Now, imagine your prostate as a quiet little factory. Its job, to produce the fluid that mixes with sperm and becomes semen. Day in, day out, it works behind the scenes. But like any factory, if it keeps producing without ever releasing, things start to build up. You see, when you ejaculate, whether through sex or masturbation, you're not just releasing pleasure. You're literally flushing the prostate, getting rid of old fluid, clearing out dead cells, and potentially harmful waste. It's like running clean water through your pipes every so often. If you let things sit too long, they get stagnant. And when things get stagnant, that's when inflammation can creep in. There's a powerful study I want to tell you about. It followed over 30,000 men for nearly 2 decades. Published in the journal European Urology, it found that men who ejaculated around 21 times per month had a significantly lower risk of developing prostate cancer than men who only ejaculated 4 to 7 times per month. And this wasn't just a tiny difference, it was a strong, consistent pattern. Now, this doesn't mean you need to keep score or hit some magic number every month. But it does tell us something important. The prostate thrives when it's active, not ignored. Let me share a real story. A man in his late 50s, let's call him Paul, came in for a routine checkup. He was healthy, fit, didn't smoke, watched what he ate. But over the past year, his PSA levels had been climbing. No major symptoms, but something felt off. When we talked, he admitted something almost sheepishly. He and his wife had grown apart over the years, and for a while, he hadn't had any sexual activity at all, not even solo. He thought it didn't matter. Out of sight, out of mind, he said. But what we realized was that his prostate wasn't just quietly aging, it was stagnating. Within a few months of adjusting his lifestyle, including bringing back regular ejaculation, his PSA began to normalize. Coincidence? Maybe. But science says probably not. So here's your takeaway from this part. Releasing regularly doesn't just feel good, it might be part of keeping your prostate healthy. It's one of the simplest things you can do, and it's completely within your control. But before you run off thinking that's all you need to stay healthy down there, let's press pause, because as we age, there's another more subtle shift happening, one that has to do with your hormones, your energy, and yes, your prostate's growth. And if you're over 40, it's already underway. Let's talk about the hormone battle inside your body and how it shapes your prostate more than you realize. Part 2. Hormones at war. The silent influence of testosterone and DHT. Now, while flushing out the prostate plays an important role in keeping things clean, there's something happening beneath the surface, something that affects every man after 40, whether he realizes it or not. I'm talking about hormones. You've probably heard of testosterone. It's the hormone we associate with strength, energy, drive, and vitality. But there's another player in the background, DHT, or dihydrotestosterone. Here's where it gets interesting. As you age, your overall testosterone levels naturally begin to drop, but your body still takes some of that testosterone and converts it into DHT, and DHT is far more potent. Think of testosterone as a gentle flame, while DHT is more like a blowtorch, especially when it comes to stimulating prostate cells. DHT tells those cells, hey, keep growing. And over time, that quiet message turns into a full-blown shout. That's how many men end up with benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH. It's not cancer, but it does enlarge the prostate, sometimes dramatically. And that's when you start to feel it trouble starting your stream, waking up multiple times at night, that constant feeling like you didn't quite finish peeing. So how does all this relate to masturbation? Well, regular ejaculation may help your body manage those internal hormone shifts better by reducing built-up pressure and inflammation. But, and this is important, it's not a magic fix for hormonal imbalance. You can't out-ejaculate your way out of aging hormones. Let me tell you about Darren. He was 48, a gym guy, proud of staying active and young. He told me, "Doc, I still feel 30. I take supplements, I eat clean, and yeah, I keep the engine running, if you know what I mean." But Darren also had a dirty little secret. He'd been popping testosterone boosters without guidance. His DHT shot through the roof. He started noticing hair thinning, oily skin, and worst of all, prostate swelling. The guy who once bragged about his supercharged libido was now struggling with painful urination. His story is a reminder. Hormones are powerful, and they demand respect, not shortcuts. So here's the takeaway. Healthy testosterone is good, but when it converts into too much DHT, it becomes a silent stressor on your prostate. That's why it's so important to manage hormone health the right way, through lifestyle, proper nutrition, and medical guidance, not extreme supplements or crash fixes. Now, up until now, we've talked about internal balance, how flushing the system and understanding hormones can make a huge difference. But there's something else that often flies under the radar. It's slow, quiet, and easy to overlook. And yet it might be one of the biggest threats to your prostate as you age. Let's talk about chronic inflammation and the hidden damage it causes over time. Part 3. Silent fire. How inflammation builds up inside the prostate. So far, we've talked about the importance of keeping your system flowing and the hormonal shifts quietly shaping your prostate over time. But there's another factor, one that builds slowly, quietly, often with no symptoms at all. And yet, it's responsible for so many of the long-term issues men face. Chronic inflammation. Now, when most people think of inflammation, they think of a swollen ankle or a sore throat. But inside, the prostate inflammation works differently. It's not loud or obvious. It's more like a low, persistent fire burning just enough to cause damage, but not enough to set off alarms. Here's how it often happens. As men age, the prostate tends to retain more fluid, especially when it enlarges. If ejaculation doesn't happen regularly, those fluids can become stagnant, like water sitting in a pipe that's rarely used. That stagnant environment creates the perfect conditions for cellular debris, immune activity, and chemical irritation, all of which fuel inflammation. And over time, that inflammation becomes a breeding ground for more serious issues, from urinary discomfort to pain to potentially setting the stage for abnormal cell growth. Let me share a story that might hit close to home. Greg was 62, retired, divorced, living a quiet life. He didn't drink or smoke. He walked daily and watched his diet. But for years, he'd ignored his sexual health. No drive anymore, he told me. Didn't seem important. He hadn't ejaculated in nearly a year. He came to me not because of pain, but because he'd been urinating 8 or 9 times a night. Tests revealed chronic prostatitis not caused by infection but by inflammation. His prostate wasn't just enlarged, it was irritated, thickened like a sponge soaking in fluid that had nowhere to go. We started simple, gentle pelvic exercises, warm baths, a better diet. And yes, regular ejaculation, even if it was through solo activity. Within 3 months, his symptoms improved dramatically. His energy returned. And for the first time in years, he said, "I feel connected to my body again." That's the part we often forget. This isn't just about avoiding cancer or fixing a stream, it's about living in tune with your body, giving it what it needs to function, heal, and stay balanced. Here's the small lesson from this big topic. Prostate health isn't just about age, it's about circulation, movement, flow. When that flow stops, be it physical, hormonal, or emotional, problems start to build. And speaking of flow, there's one more system we haven't talked about yet. Your emotions. Because your prostate isn't just affected by what you eat or how often you ejaculate, it's also influenced by how you feel, how you manage stress, and the habits you form to cope with daily life. In the next part, we'll talk about the emotional impact of masturbation. Not just on your hormones, but on your brain, your energy, and your sense of connection with yourself and others. It's time we address the mind-body connection and the quiet cost of escaping too often into solo release. Part 4. The emotional toll. What happens when you rely on masturbation for relief? By now, we've seen how the body responds physically, hormonally, and biologically to regular sexual release. But what about the mind? You see, for many men, masturbation starts as something simple, even healthy, a way to explore, to relax, to feel good in your own skin. But over time, especially with age, stress, and loneliness, it can quietly become something else. It becomes a coping mechanism. When you're stressed, you turn to it. When you're tired or anxious, it's a quick escape. When you feel disconnected from your partner, your purpose, or even yourself, it becomes comfort. And because it's always available, it's easy to lean on over and over. But here's the part we don't talk about enough. Each time you release, your brain goes through a cascade of chemical shifts. Dopamine spikes, bringing that brief high of pleasure and reward. Then comes the drop. Prolactin rises, making you feel relaxed, but also tired, unmotivated, maybe even emotionally flat. Now, when this happens once in a while, no big deal. But if you're using masturbation every day to regulate your stress, your boredom, your loneliness, you start rewiring your brain. Your pleasure becomes short-lived. Your energy drops faster. You lose that inner spark, that drive that once made you feel alive. Let me share a quiet story. Marcus, 54, divorced, working from home. He told me, "I don't drink, I don't smoke, but I do this every night. It helps me sleep." At first it worked, but over time his sleep got worse. He felt numb during the day, low on energy, and disconnected from people, even those who cared. He wasn't addicted, per se, but he was relying on something that was never meant to replace real rest, real connection, or real intimacy. Together, we worked on something different. A new nighttime routine, some light movement, breathing exercises, journaling. And instead of avoiding intimacy altogether, he began exploring what it would look like to reconnect with someone, or even just with himself, in a deeper, more mindful way. 3 months later, he told me, "I still do it sometimes. But now it's intentional, not automatic. And I finally wake up feeling rested again." That's the real point. Masturbation isn't bad, but when it becomes the only way we feel good, or the main way we escape emotions, it takes more than it gives. So, here's your quiet lesson from this chapter. If pleasure becomes a routine escape, it stops being pleasure. It becomes noise. And over time, it drowns out the signals your body and heart are trying to send. Now, in this journey, there's one more important thing we need to explore. Because while solo release plays its part in prostate health, it's not quite the same as making love with care, connection, and presence. And the truth is, your prostate, your hormones, and your heart all respond very differently when real intimacy is involved. In the next part, let's explore the powerful difference between solo release and partnered intimacy, and what it really means for your long-term health. Part 5. Connection over isolation. Why real intimacy matters for the prostate and beyond. Let's pause for a moment and take a deep breath. We've talked a lot about the mechanics, the body, the hormones, the science. But here's something you may not have expected to hear in a video about the prostate intimacy. Real human connection is medicine. You see, when you share a moment of closeness with someone you care about, whether it's your spouse, a partner, or someone new, your body responds in a completely different way than it does during solo release. There's oxytocin, the bonding hormone which floods your system and helps reduce stress. There's a deeper sense of safety, of being seen, of letting go in the presence of someone else. And that has real physical effects on your blood pressure, your sleep, even your immune system. But more than anything, it changes how your prostate and pelvic region function. Because during true intimacy, your nervous system calms, your muscles relax, and your brain sends out signals of balance, not just arousal. Compare that to the rush of quick solo release, often done in isolation, often out of habit rather than true desire. It's like the difference between a microwave meal and a warm, home-cooked dinner shared with someone you love. Both fill your stomach, but only one nourishes you. Let me tell you about Joe and Linda. Married 32 years. They'd grown apart not out of anger, just the slow drift that happens when life gets busy and bodies change. Joe had started relying on masturbation to feel close to something again, but it left him emptier each time. It wasn't until they had a quiet conversation, one that was uncomfortable at first, that things began to shift. They made a commitment not to be perfect, not to reignite passion overnight, but just to touch more, sit closer, talk with fewer distractions. And when intimacy did return, it wasn't flashy or dramatic. It was simple, gentle, human. And here's the part that surprised them both. Joe's prostate symptoms began to ease, less urgency, better sleep. Not because of some supplement, but because he was living in rhythm with something deeper than routine. So what's the lesson here? Your prostate doesn't just respond to chemistry, it responds to connection, to the presence of another person, to the energy that flows when we're not just releasing but relating. Now, not everyone watching this has a partner right now, and that's okay. This isn't about rushing into a relationship, it's about recognizing that your body was made for connection in whatever form is meaningful and safe for you. Because when we care for ourselves in a loving, intentional way, whether through intimacy with someone else or simply a kinder connection to ourselves, the body listens, the heart softens, and healing begins in places we didn't even realize were hurting. Now that we've looked at these 5 powerful influences on your prostate, it's time to bring everything together. In the final section, I'll walk you through a simple 4-step action plan you can start today to protect your prostate and feel better in your body for years to come. Final part. The 4-pillar plan for lifelong prostate health. So, we've taken a quiet journey together, from hormones and inflammation to loneliness and love. We've uncovered not just what happens to the prostate when you masturbate regularly, but also what your prostate is really asking for as you grow older. And now I want to give you something practical, something you can carry with you, not just in your head, but into your everyday life. Let's talk about your 4-pillar action plan for lifelong prostate health. Simple steps, big impact, no gimmicks. Pillar 1. Get checked. Regularly. This one is non-negotiable. If you're over 40 or earlier, if prostate issues run in your family, please don't skip your yearly checkups. That includes 2 things: the PSA blood test, which looks for a protein linked to prostate changes, and the digital rectal exam, yes, that one.
I know it sounds uncomfortable, but it takes less than a minute. And it could save you years of suffering, or even save your life. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be responsible and brave enough to care for the body that's carried you this far.
Pillar 2. Eat for ease, not inflammation. The food you eat either helps your prostate or hurts it. And most of the time, we don't even realize the damage until the symptoms show up. Start by cutting back on processed meats, fried foods, sugar, and heavy alcohol, and instead add in the good stuff: leafy greens, berries, fatty fish, pumpkin seeds, green tea. And here's the magic bullet: cooked tomatoes. Tomatoes contain lycopene, a natural antioxidant that's like armor for your prostate cells, and it's more powerful when cooked. So yes, pasta sauce can actually be good for you. Food is not just fuel, it's daily medicine. Pillar 3. Move every day. You don't need to be an athlete, but your body was never meant to sit still for hours on end. Make it a point to move. Even a brisk walk for 30 minutes a day can regulate your hormones, reduce inflammation, and improve circulation to your pelvic area. And here's a bonus tip that most men overlook: Kegel exercises. They're not just for women. Kegels strengthen the muscles that support your bladder and prostate, improving control and comfort, especially as you age. You can do them anywhere while brushing your teeth, waiting at a stoplight, or watching TV. It's invisible, but it's powerful. Pillar 4. Stay hydrated and stay present. Water doesn't just flush your bladder. It supports your entire urinary tract, helps your cells detox, and keeps your system moving. Aim for 2 to 3 liters a day, more if you're active or live in a hot climate. Carry a bottle, sip often, and listen to your body when it's thirsty, not just when it's dry. But hydration goes deeper than water. It's about being present with yourself, with your needs, with the quiet signals your body sends. When you're present, you don't ignore symptoms. You don't escape into habits. You take action from a place of care, not fear. Closing reflections. You know your prostate is a small thing, tucked away, often forgotten, but it holds a bigger story of how we age, how we connect, how we care for ourselves as men. If you've watched this far, that means you're not just curious, you're committed. You care about your health, your future, your peace of mind, and that matters more than you know. So here's my invitation to you: start small. Take one action this week. Maybe it's making that doctor's appointment, or adding tomatoes to dinner, or reaching out to someone you haven't talked to in a while. These aren't just health habits, they're acts of self-respect, because prostate health isn't about being perfect, it's about staying present and treating yourself like someone worth taking care of, because you are.